Hello everyone and welcome back to EVE Market, your weekly look at the Yamaha market. I'm just gonna go straight off with the market, and there's not really anything special. I think the black sales are still ongoing, so I don't think there's gonna be too much of stuff to see on there. May see a little bit drop, but we're gonna hear for minerals. That's where we're gonna start off today, as always. Titanium is still on the drop here. For most of the week it's been dropping. You can clearly see, but for the last 2 to 3 days we're slowly starting to see the 20-day average starting to go up in price. We're seeing a small spike, and we see definitely here for it's still on the Saturday here in this case. This Saturday on the Friday high price. Saturday has dropped again a little bit. I'm getting sick of these flies, yeah. Sorry, I my door opened way too long tonight, so I got all kinds of like 2 flies keep sitting on my freaking screen, and very small flies flying around me all the time. Really annoying. So yeah, back to the market, back to the minerals. Titanium had a small spike up, but I think this is only a short period, and then we may see on the next week another drop for the price of titanium. There's now and then his ups, but this is only the first one this month, that also the 20-day average has responding to that. Prices 5.65 for the sellers and 5.34 for the buyers. It's slightly lower than last week's price. That was 5.40, so a very small drop in that price there. Not too big. Then we go on for ferrite. Ferrite is still very slowly dropping. It was pretty stable about beginning of this week and the end of last week. Very stable here for a few days. Went slightly up, then 5 average definitely respond to that. 20-day average like nope, I'm still gonna drop. You can also here clearly see here for the Wednesday and Thursday sitting at a lower price, almost at the 950. Then again the Friday we went slightly a little bit up, but also today at the end of the Saturday we are sitting close to the 950. So ferrite is basically still very slowly dropping in price. For the sellers we're sitting already below the 50, just one, it's not too huge amount, for 9.49, and for the buyers we're sitting at 9.24. Again, that's a drop compared to last week, a little bit better than titanium. 9.51 was last week's price for ferrite, so it's definitely nice seeing a bit bigger drop on that. Then Maxilon, that was going up last week. Maxilon is still going up in price. You can clearly see the 5-day average going up. 20-day did make a small dip in here, but that's probably from this week here. A little bit bigger dip here. The 5-day seems to be 20 average seems to be responding a little bit late on that, because it's been so flat, so it didn't move too much. Also here a little bit slight drop compared to that. It makes a small drop, but you can clearly see 20 average already starting to go back up again. So we're definitely gonna see on the next week, probably gonna see even more increase of the price of Maxilon. And Maxilon already was such a high price last week, but it still has dropped, at least I can tell you that. For the sellers we're sitting at 72.30. Alright, the flies seems to be doubling themselves here. Wow. 72.30 for the sellers. For the buyers 69.25. It's a lower price than last week, because last week we had a record top price for Maxilon since the beginning of 2003. Now we seem to finally starting to drop in price on that. 70.68 was last week's price, so we're clearly seen a nice drop here on the price for Maxilon. And I think this probably also gonna stay around this, or maybe even drop, because it is basically a high price. Oxygen seems to have been stopped dropping. It was really low here at beginning of the week, almost hitting the 81. That was a really low price. You can clearly see them suddenly making like a few days time it went up to 86, dropped again towards below the 82. It looks about 81.5. Then again for the now, for the Friday and the Saturday we're sitting flat at the 84. So it looks like we definitely hit about the lowest price we could get for oxygen. And oxygen slowly starting to recover again and starting to go up in price on that one. For the sellers, 81.43, that's a pretty low one. It's just only slight, this guy probably has fulfilled an order up from the buyers. So basically the seller's price should be closer to the 84.98 on that. And for the buyers at 81.41. Not really a lot of difference compared to last week. It's only slightly higher. 81.32 was last week's price. So it's slightly higher and just still not beat the record bottom price of it. We got really close to it, but we didn't make it for the record price. Then Noxium has been going down for a pretty long time. Did hit a record bottom price last week. Seems to be this on 20-day average we are still dropping. 5-day is climbing a little bit back up towards the 440. You can also see the average prices per day has been going up, especially here for a few days. This looks to be around the Wednesday, Saturday, Friday, Thursday, yeah, Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're seeing it climb towards the 450, towards the 460. Almost, this looks like to be 450.6 or 7 here today. But then again, next day slowly dropped towards the 420. So it's sitting pretty much between the 420 and the 460 range, where Noxium is sitting. I think this is going to be staying on that next week too. For the sellers, 430 or 440, I'll make that for the sellers. For the buyers, 426.13. That price is starting to go up indeed, because last week we were sitting even way lower. You cannot even see it on this here, and we're sitting like there. That was last week's price. So last week's price was 405.27. So we went clearly a lot up on this. So we definitely hit a bottom price last week. And we're now going to see an increase in the price of Noxium. And this probably we'll see also on the next week. Zynrid is still on the drop here. Clearly still very slowly dropping in price. 5 and 20-day average pretty much dropping very slowly. A little bit here in a week, even drop below the 1200 per unit. Also today we're sitting really close towards the 1200. I definitely, if this is gonna keep on dropping on the next week, what I'm gonna expect, we're definitely gonna drop on the next week steady below the 1200 for Zynrid. I think maybe the buyers are maybe already below the 1200 because we're sitting so close to it. We're gonna see that right here. Yes, they are. For the sellers, 1235.89 for the sellers. For the buyers, like I said, already below the 1200, 1146.02. Definitely lower because the price keeps on dropping for Zynrid. This will definitely keep on going for the next week. Last week's price was also below the 1200 already, 1174, and we're now even lower than that. It's not gonna be easy to break the record price since I recorded all this because the record bottom price is so low. That was even before some changes were made. That's quite everything more signed with the mega site. That price are still having sitting on here. When I don't think we're ever gonna beat that one. I don't think so. Then mega site. Oh, price history. There we go. Mega site has been moving pretty much a lot around, I would say. We were last week also really low price. We're sitting on 1200. You can see this week it has been going up from like the lowest price just above the 13, like 1325 around that, towards above 1500, 1520 maybe even here, and then also suddenly dropping back down to the 1400 or even almost 1350. Really rapid movements between on mega sites. It's not really clear what this one's gonna do on the next week. If I say I'm expecting more of a drop on the next week for mega site. It is a high price currently. Well, it's sitting on a normal price compared to the difference with design rate. It's sitting pretty much on a normal price, but it's rapidly moving. And definitely when I look at the longer graph here, we went up pretty a long time here, stayed pretty stable here on the 1500, and then suddenly we're starting to drop here and then back up again. So I think we're gonna see another drop next week, maybe a smaller one, and then go back up on price. It's not really, it's always hard to tell what the market is doing in Eve. For the sellers, we're sitting just below the 1500, 1498 flat out for that. And for the buyers in 1265.24. That is higher than last week's price. That was 1204. So we definitely seen here an increase in price for that. Morphite is has been this week pretty stable, sitting above, just above 12,000, 12,500. So in between those prices, very stable for pretty much the whole week. Hasn't done too much. It's only about 50 is difference that's been sitting in, except for the Friday and the Saturday. We suddenly see a drop in price heading towards 11,000. Price drop will definitely gonna keep on going next week because we are sitting just so high with the price of Morphite. The drop will probably just keep on going on the next week. Seller's price 12,444.93. For the buyers, 10,013.02, so 10,003 ISK. For that is a higher price than last week. 9,902 was last week's price, so I'm really surprised that the price went up for Morphite. I'm really expecting this one to go down, but it hasn't. So really an increase on that side for the prices. So that were the minerals for this week. We're gonna go on for some regular salvage from this region. Armor plates, has been some movement this week. Last week was around here, I think. Last week we had a record price, by the way, on the bottom side for armor plates. Do we? Yeah, we have. I think I filled in something wrong, maybe. But yeah, but armor plates has definitely been going up this week. We started at the end of last week. Going up here towards the 66,000. Went even above that 66. 500 looks like even slightly higher than that. But then for a few days later, a day later, we're starting to drop towards 65,000. A day after that, even below the 64,000 per unit. But then again, suddenly the Saturday picks up again towards the 65,000 per unit. So there's some movement in here. It is currently the price for this is pretty low. It definitely starting trying to go up, but it doesn't want to go up yet. But it is trying now and then, but it's dropping every time. So this can go up or down in the next week. Seller's price 67,999 for the sellers. That's more than 500 units, and 67,100 for the buyers. Last week's price was really low. I think that's even right that I have written here. I have only not copied this yet for the lowest price. It seems to be that I forgot that last week. So last week's price was really low. It was 45,100. So it definitely has gone up in price pretty a lot, more than 1,000 per unit. But then again, it was a record bottom price last week for that. Then we have Burlogic circuits. Burlogic circuits has slightly increased in the prices in somewhere in the middle of the week. We see a spike here in the early of the week, about 58,000. Make the drop then after that again below the 56,000 slightly. then slowly crawling back up towards the 58. Then the Friday we dropped again below the 56,000, and for the Saturday we're sitting just above that. It's definitely also trying to go up higher again. Well, it already has been going up. You can on price for pretty like 3 months, 2 months. You can see here definitely trying to go up. It's also trying to here go up. Then suddenly made a dip, trying to go back up again. It seems to be falling down again. So it looks like we're hitting pretty much the highest price. We may see soon a drop in price, or it will go up, depending a little bit which way it wants to go. But it's more like expecting it's gonna go down in price. Around 65,000 for the sellers, 56,200 for the buyers. That's definitely also a drop in price. 58,000 flat was last week's price. So you see already on the buyers that the price is dropping. Friday interface circuits was already really interesting last week. Even this week, I seems to have even more of a drop in price. Not really. Huge sales, by the way, here on the Thursday. Surprisingly, no effect on the market at all. I can even see on the Friday, that was Thursday, Friday, there's hardly any difference between the prices. These two lines are really close together. So the difference was pretty small between the high and the low prices. Here was bigger difference, also definitely here for the Saturday. Pretty big difference between 5,500 and the lowest price of 500. So pretty big difference between here. But still, Friday interface circuits really low price, still below the 2,000, but here and there a few days above it. I don't know what's gonna do next week. Really, I don't know. 2,500 for the sellers and 2,000 for the buys. That went definitely up by 500 compared to last week's. That was 1,500. That was a record bottom price. So we're now seeing an increase in price for this. How long this is gonna keep up? No idea. It's really low already, but it has. It should go up pretty soon. It's already went up 500 in a week time. So, melting capacitor consoles. It's still the same story, just sitting below the 7,500, 7,400. Been sitting there for like a month, a whole freaking month. You see here then now spikes per days here. Someone's bought in a lot, trying to crash the market again towards even a higher price for melting capacitor consoles. It is not working. You cannot crash the melting capacitor console market here in a market. People seems to try it here. Biggest sale on day, there's not too much on the market, so people think, oh, I can crash the market easily. The price goes up for one day, drop the next day, and the day after that we're just back at the normal price. Here also, biggest sales, trying to crash the market, the price went even less high, towards the 8,000, next day, just back at 7,400. Here another spike, next day back to 7,400. 2 days at 8,000, back to 7,400. You cannot move this market at all currently here in Amar. It looks like people definitely trying it. Here's definitely has been tried. This one is more like someone put a buy order for a little bit high price, push the price slightly up. Probably also this one. This one is maybe someone even put it slightly higher, even to get them in. I think this is the only one that really someone tried to crash the market. It is just not working. If I look at the 3 months charter, here also people. This is even on the 1 month chart. Even there's one just about a month ago. Here, very high price. Also here, really high sales. Trying to do something about this market here. It is not working out. The simple set. Seller's price 7,800, 7,799 to be exact for the sellers. For the buyers, we're even lower now than last week, 7,250 for the buyers. Last week's price 7,402. So we have dropped again on the price here for melting capacitor consoles. No record prices yet here on the bottom, but if all these orders get fulfilled, we even not making a record bottom price. This is, I think this price is gonna stay for a really long time. I'm not expecting any changes on the next week. Only seller's price can go up, can probably go lower. But yeah, I don't expect a lot on this. Trip power circuits. Let's go to back to the 1 month chart, by the way. Trip power circuits pretty much been stable the whole week, sitting around the 16,000 per unit, slightly up, slightly below it. Very stable. They are only for today, for the Saturday, we suddenly make a whole big drop on the average price per day. Looks like towards the 12,500 per unit. So it looks like suddenly this market is making a small crash. It's coming, I think, already from a high price. Yeah, it's already dropping in price for like 6 months. It is dropping. So we suddenly make another huge drop here. You can also, by the way, clearly see 6 months sales on average are more like on this line here for these months, and then suddenly here the price is already below the 18,000. Soon it's starting to drop below the 18,000. You see the average sales dropping even a little bit more towards the 50,000 on average per day. So it definitely had an effect. People are maybe moving more towards Cheetah to sell it there. I don't know what the price is there, not out of my head. My voice is going away. Alright, that's better. So yeah, it's suddenly make a huge drop, and I'm not sure if it's gonna recover from this. We're gonna see that next week. Seller's price 16,498. Buyer's price 14,100. That's clearly lower than last week's 15,900 last week's price. So we now clearly are lower. Ooh, and record price. New record bottom price since the beginning of 2015 for trip power circuits. So that was the sellers. Then we have one more thing, that is Plex. We're gonna look at. Plex is pretty stable around the 880 million. Still slightly above it, below it this whole week. It seems to be getting a little bit stable. Plex sales definitely have made this price drop. It was only last week, as I said, but it was Plex sales and the price dropped by this. Then suddenly it started to pretty much stabilize around 880 million ish per unit. So that's a nice price. So that fly just attacked me straight in the face. Wow. Alright, Plex, so very stable around 880 million for this. I think as soon the Plex sales gonna stop, it will go up in price. And CCP is just gonna kick in another Plex sales when it gets a little bit too high, above 900. I think it's getting above the 900 million, I have a feeling. CCP is gonna start a Plex sales around that, and then we see a price drop again. I think that's gonna be a pretty normal thing to see around here. Seller's price 910 million for Plex. For the buyers, we're sitting at 869 million for Plex. That is slightly higher than last week's price. Last week's price was 863.7 million ISK. We're now sitting around 869.1 million ISK. So we went slightly up in price for the Plex here in Amar. So this was this week's look at the Amar market. Next week we're still gonna have a video. The week after that, probably gonna be the last one before my holidays, because we have only 2 weeks of work left. So I need to work next week, and the week after that I know we're gonna have Friday. Always have some food from work and beer and stuff. That's gonna be a lot of beer, but that's on a Friday, so that's not gonna be too much issue. I don't know when I'm gonna leave towards the fair where they're always sitting on when I have holiday. I don't know when they're gonna be, and that's in that village, because they will be standing home first. I think I'm gonna leave probably Monday or Tuesday then here. So I think we're gonna have 2 more videos before my holidays, but I will let you guys know that. So thanks for watching for this Amar market week, and we'll see you all next week. Fly safe.